Hey
Okay,
guys,
this is happening.
it's me, your boy Chaos Theory, and I'm joined by. That's why you're supposed to say your name, dude.
White frosting,
Oh yeah, there we go.
apparently. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I know.
we'll keep that part in. So yeah, today we're gonna start up our first podcast episode. Our channel name has yet to be decided. So you're gonna see what our channel name
Yeah,
is. So yeah, today we're gonna talk about
yeah,
climate
with
change.
hopefully many more to come.
Yeah, today we're
Oh,
gonna talk
shit.
about climate change. Since it's a first episode, so we might as well start simple. Okay, so a weird thing. Okay, climate change is a really complex problem, as we all know, right? Some people say it's real. Some people call it a hoax. We are believers that it's real, but we're not just going to circle jerk why it is real. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about why the other side says that it's a hoax, because they it's it's probably more complicated than just saying it's a hoax. They probably have their reasons for saying that it's a hoax. Like for example, economics. Climate change has like and the not just climate change and the effort against climate change has huge implications for the economy, the global economy as a whole. Like but that's for later on. We're gonna first talk about why climate change is a problem. You wanna take it away,
Okay.
Frosty?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, climate change, to, just explain what it is to those of you watching who don't know it. You definitely heard about it, right? In this day and age. It's been getting thrown around, right? The term's been getting thrown around. But we are both believers that it is real. But we won't,
I don't like using the term believer. It makes us feel like it's a religion or something.
yeah, yeah, okay. We,
It's
we
so-
are both men of science,
yeah, okay, we'll use that
and
term. Otherwise, it sounds
and
like
we
a
have
cult or
come to
something.
our conclusion that lines up with other people's conclusions that climate change is a thing,
Our
right? It's
conclusions are
very
based on other
real.
people's conclusions. We just agree.
Yeah, we looked at it, we saw, and we're like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense. But other people think that other things make sense, and you know what, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, no one's really
But
right
we're
in
here to
this world.
see.
There's no real true
Yeah,
justification.
there's always 17 sides to anything,
Mm-hmm.
apparently, except murder, and even then,
That should be your senior
you know how
quote.
that goes.
17 sides to everything. I mean, that makes a good senior quote. Anyway, yeah, keep going.
Okay, keep going. So yeah, people say it's not real, but as I mentioned before, we think it's real. And so the problem of it, why is the problem? Now, mainly, in a nutshell, climate change is the climate, as in the temperature,
The
rainfall over a
global
large
temperature, to
area. In
be
this case,
specific.
yeah, global temperatures. In this case, the area will be global. In this case, climate change is the what? Raising of the temperature of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The way that's caused is typically through what? Global warming, right? Global warming leads to climate change.
Yeah.
They're intertwined in that case. And global warming is due to many factors.
Mm-hmm. The main being
Mainly,
carbon pollution by
yeah,
factories.
carbon dioxide being in the air, and carbon dioxide likes to retain heat, right? It likes to retain heat. So the heat coming in from the sun, right? Coming in as UV, etc. They hit the earth, they bounce off, how light reflects and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it stays in the environment. It stays in the environment.
It's called the greenhouse
And
effect, to be specific.
yeah, the greenhouse effect, like a greenhouse. Really hot in those. I've been there
Mm-hmm.
once. But yeah, they bounce off, but they can't, leave our atmosphere because of the carbon dioxide just keeping it in. And it hasn't been to this extent because of how much carbon dioxide we're releasing, right? There's way more in it than, I'm not going to say there's been like prehistorically, years past, but there's way more in it than there's been pre-industrially, right? Like recent pre-industrially. And that, significant increase, the fact that we can even make a globally significant increase on the earth, there's just a lot of us going, right? And our factories are insane.
Yeah, you've probably
And
heard the term 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2 degrees Celsius thrown around a lot. And this graph right here, it should show up on the screen right now. This graph right here should show you why that term is being thrown around a lot right now. So currently, if you didn't know, the Earth, since like 2015, I think, according to climateanalytics.org, you'll probably see a quote of it right here. Over the first 9 months of 2015, the global mean warming reached 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial for the first time. So yeah, that 2015 is likely to become what I mean. It's 2019 now. It was the warmest year back then in more than 11,000 years. So
Yeah,
yeah, and I think
that's ridiculous. Like usually the uh
yeah, you keep going.
oh yeah, okay. So usually the what the in this case opposition. Usually they say that climate change is a part of the Earth's cycle, right? Because the Earth typically even has like a catastrophic event, like an asteroid hit, an ice age, stuff like that, every hundreds of millions of years, right? It's actually somewhat natural. In this case, they're saying that the heating of the Earth isn't that different, but in this case, it's on a whole nother scale, right? Sure, there's heat spikes every now and then, but this is like ridiculous.
Yeah,
In the case that hasn't happened,
if we go
yeah,
back to the graph right now, right, 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, right, up to 1.1 months of heat waves. I think that's what it means. It's not really that specific to like because it just says up to 1.1 months, but it's under heat waves, so I guess that correlates with heat waves. So and then a decrease in freshwater availability by 9% in the Mediterranean, increase of 5% heavy rainfall. I'm assuming that's globally, and then crop yields. Right, look at this, guys. 9% wheat production down, 3% maize production down, 6% soy production increase, and 6% rice production increase. So I guess it's kind of a trade-off right there. Increased rice, less wheat. So yeah,
yeah, but it would be it's it's got to be one of the worst trade deals in history, right?
yeah, like
Because you look at you look at 2 degrees and you get your wheat production gets destroyed at that point, right? It
yeah,
goes
like
down
what
16%.
60% like the global wheat. I actually no, it just
Yeah,
says in tropical.
globally
Yeah,
you're not gonna have your bread anymore, right? No bread in circus. On the other hand, you get an increase in 1% for
yeah,
your soy production,
yeah.
and
They
then your rice
basically
production doesn't even change.
yeah. Also,
Like
then we go to sea level rise, right? By 2100 relative to 2000 in years, 40 centimeters increase in rain. I mean sea level. Now, 40 centimeters might seem like very little, but when
it's
you
like a foot
actually think
plus.
about how close some like places are to like the sea, that's actually quite a bit. That's like more than a foot right there.
Yeah, like yeah, that is like more than a foot. New Orleans, I think, is technically below sea level, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of other cities, like especially the ones on the coastline, they're at sea level or technically below sea level. Uh, like a foot difference, that's insane. Like right now, even Long Island is like sinking by an inch every year. That's actually
Yeah.
hold on, that's probably a lie. That's probably exaggerated, but it's still
But
sinking at this point, right? Sea level
yeah.
rise, it's still gonna be sinking.
Also, sometimes it's like
Coral bleaching.
wait, before we go to that,
Yep.
sometimes like the sources really conflict with each other because this graph right here is from Vox, right? But when I go to like The Verge, right? TheVerge.com, they say right here by 2100 sea levels could rise up to as much as 6 feet. Scientists say so. 6 feet and 30 centimeters. That's a pretty big difference right there. So
Yeah.
maybe they're saying by 6 feet in New York City specifically. So I guess that can make up for it, because like in some places sea levels won't rise. So because that the 30 centimeters, that's probably an average, right? And this 6 feet is probably an outlier. So I guess when you like average it globally, then it's 30 centimeters. But if you look at like specific parts like Manhattan, then it's 6 feet. So I guess different places will be affected way more or way less than other places. So I guess you have to look at the specifics then.
Yeah.
Because just because that says 30 centimeters
Yeah.
doesn't mean
Remember.
it's. I mean 40 centimeters. Sorry, doesn't mean it's um 40 centimeters everywhere. In some places like Manhattan, it could be 6 feet. So coral bleaching from 2050 onwards, 90% of reefs are at risk at 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius. 98% of reefs are at risk. So for those of you who don't know what coral bleaching is, well, it's kind of self-explanatory, right? The corals, right? I think it's due to the acidity of the water,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Rising sea levels cause the water to be more acidic, and then because of that, the corals will turn white, right? As if they were bleached. So yeah, which is really detrimental because like some places like Australia, they have what's called ecotourism, where they like make lots of money, like millions or probably billions of dollars off of like tourist people going to Australia to see these corals. So that's economic downturn right there for Australia, and not just and even just from a humanitarian. I mean, this wouldn't be considered humanitarian, even from like a environmental protection standpoint. Like if we lose one of like corals can be considered one of like Earth's national natural treasures, since they're very like rare. You can only find them in certain places, like the most famous being the Great Barrier Reef. So it would really suck if like they just all turned white and lost all their vibrant colors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Biodiversitically, that's a word. They're essentially the rainforests of the water. I think people call them, right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different species going on, and again, from an environmental protective standpoint, if we lose those, we're losing a lot of, just like history.
Mhm.
Not to mention that we don't even know that much about the ocean, so we're going to be losing things that we're not even going to be able to find out ever again, that we're already like not even that good at.
Yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
that's just like a small glimpse of the amount of problems that climate change will cause by the end of the century, right? So I don't know how old the viewer right now you guys are watching this, but this may or may not affect you, or but this will definitely affect either your kids or their kids. So I guess this brings up a philosophical question, right? Why do I care? I mean, sure, it might not matter to you because you're probably going to die. Nothing matters after you die, I guess, to you. But maybe you'll have a sense of, like, I don't know, some sort of sense that, wow, my kids will be safe environmentally, at least in the future, or my grandkids for that matter. And that might be enough to, like, I don't know. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. There was this one quote, right? We're
Hmm.
just borrowing the earth from our grandkids, right? We're not like holding on to it or anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not planning on having kids. Okay, let me put that out right there, right now, ladies. But you know what? Just for like next generation, it'll be a real scumbag move. Just screw up the earth. It's getting pretty bad.
Hmm. Yeah.
Getting pretty bad.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, because there's also that sense of like, hey, if like it's like the recycling thing, right? If then my neighbor does it, then I don't have to do it because what can one person do? Like, what can one person change? Like, it's kind of that feeling, right? It's like also like the election thing, right? What like people are telling you to go out and vote, but you're just one vote out of like millions and millions. So how will that really change anything? But and then there's also the cliche answer, right? If one person does it. I mean, if like let's say there's like if everyone has a mindset that my vote can change the election or like my recycling of this plastic bottle can change the world, then soon enough you'll see that more and more people will start doing that action and actual change will start happening. So
Yeah.
sure, your one plastic bottle being recycled won't like save the earth or anything, but if you just get into that mindset and maybe help spread awareness and get others into that mindset, you can actually start actually helping create change by just a mindset, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like people together can do insane things, right? Like there's so many of us, even like not even a million, like even 1,000 of people with the same kind of mindset, or like a good mindset
Hmm.
of recycling can do something. Because we're not like talking about sheer people mass, right? We're also talking about their whole lifespan. Because like if you recycle a bottle every month, right, just like a single bottle, if like everyone in your town does that over like just a year, that's 12 bottles per person.
Hmm.
Over time, over a lot of people, big differences can happen.
Yeah. This is more.
Just
We'll get
gotta
into
just gotta
this
hope.
more in the solution set, during the last 20 minutes of this podcast episode. But I understand that you, Frosty, have some facts about the U.S. and global and climate change slash global warming.
Yeah, apparently I do. So yeah, I took a graph from the EIA.gov. They have a table regarding the operating expenses for the United States electrical utilities, right? 2007 to 2017. This is in millions of dollars per kilowatt hour, which is what they apparently measure energy production in.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna look at the recent one. In 2017, that's the most recent I can see here. Regarding the operation of a nuclear plant, it's $10.27 million per kilowatt hour produced. Fossil steam, it's half that at 5.01. Fossil fuel and steam, or no, fossil steam, which is I'm assuming just fossil fuel made to turn a steam turbine, right? That's how most things work. Hydroelectric is a bit more than that. Now, and then there's also the gas turbine small scale. That's the least amount of 2.45 millions per kilowatt hour. So the costliest is going to be nuclear, right? Millions per kilowatt hour.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in 2017. Of course, it's been increasing for the past couple of years. So yeah, that's how much it costs per kilowatt hour. But what's important is how much we actually do about it, because clearly nuclear is the most expensive out of all of those. But we don't do a lot of nuclear. Now, if you get a second here to pull up the and energy production graph that we have here of the U.S. Our major point of energy generation. It's on a graph here. I'll probably pull it up from 1950 to 2018. Our electricity generation. If I'd have to, let's see, we have the same amount in 2018 of natural gas production as coal, or like approximately the same amount produced, right? In billion of kilowatt hours. That's how much does that look like? What? 2,000 billion kilowatt hours each regarding natural gas and coal. So we use those a lot. So, and if you look at renewable energy, that's only second in smallest to petroleum and other. So we don't have too much going in the renewable energy department. But I don't have anything on me right now, but I can vouch for wind energy, geothermal energy, not so much for solar, but those two right there are pretty good. Out of our renewable energies, there's another graph here. We're going mainly off hydroelectric because, in the U.S. we have nice rivers going.
Yeah.
Recently, wind has been breaking boundaries. We're using a lot of wind. We're getting nowhere near as many as the coal and natural gas does. We're getting a solid, what is that, 300 billion kilowatt hours from that.
Yeah, but that's just in
Winds
the U.S.
and
Like in certain places in the world, it's way
yeah.
windier, right? So yeah, but that's more in the solutions part in the last 20 minutes.
So yeah. Like we're just looking at the U.S. right now
Mhm.
because we can't look at everywhere, but we know the U.S. well enough. We're around here. So yeah, the seems like the U.S. is definitely going towards renewable energy, and out of those, it's been revolutionizing in the wind area, and the solar area, but hydroelectric has always stayed big, clearly. So that's what's going on in the U.S. right now. We're spending way more money on natural gas and coal. And if I could pull up another graph here, I don't have one right now, but I can vouch for at least wind and hydroelectric, and that they make more energy per more energy output per how much you put in than in proportion to coal and natural gas. So they are a better solution, but even if they weren't monetarily a better solution, looking at the future assets, I think they would be a much better choice. Yeah, choice, because we've already talked about the problems in the U.S. Especially in the Midwest area. droughts are going to be a real problem if we keep up like this. And let's see. You wanna take over? I'm trying to think what else I
Um.
would say.
Oh yeah, sure. So, well, since we've reached the first 20 minutes, it's actually 23 minutes. Let's move on to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East in general, and the other half of the problem. So, of course, we all know that the first half of the problem is that climate change is a real problem. We have to do something about it. But now we can't just talk about that, right? If the world was perfect, then we'd all just easily just move to renewable energy. We have the technology, we have the resources, but some people, Donald Trump, call it a hoax. So why do people like him call it a hoax? Well, one reason. Well, one major reason: money. So the economic implications of turning to green energy are both it's complicated, right? We'll talk about the clear negatives here, right? So the economy of Saudi Arabia, right? If you check the link I sent you and I put in the Google Docs, the economy of Saudi Arabia, it's it's one of the top 20 economies in the world, right? It's also in the G20, the top 20 economies of the world. It has the second largest proven petroleum reserves, and it's the largest exporter of petroleum in the world, Saudi Arabia. It it is literally considered the energy superpower and energy superpower with a total worth of 34.4 trillion US dollars. Saudi Arabia has the second most valuable natural resources in the world. So obviously, if we try to, if you can deduct that if we do turn to 100% renewable energy, that this might be a problem for countries such as Saudi Arabia and like Oman and Yemen and other Iran, like places like these that literally built their cities based off of oil money, right? If you see these news stories and YouTube videos of places like Dubai and like other places around there that they have these supercar police forces. Like there's billionaires left, right, and center. Their cities are like so advanced. Like people go here for vacation, literally, even though it's supposed to be like a scorching desert. It's like right next to the Sahara Desert. It has a Sahara Desert inside of it. It's like, but yet it's like this oasis, literally in the middle of this desert. And it's because of the oil money that they were able to do all this stuff, that they were able to buy these supercars and have these billionaires and have this infrastructure and have these tourist resorts. It's because of the oil money. So if that oil money goes away, then they'll really lose a large percent of their GDP. The petroleum sector accounts for roughly 87% of the Saudi budget revenues, 90% of export earnings, and 42% of GDP. 42%. That's insane. If they were to lose their oil revenue, then they would have to deal with then they would have what is it, 58%? Yeah, 58% of their GDP, almost half of what they have. So that's a major problem for them. But there are solutions which we will get into later on. But it's not just problems with the Middle East, because they are the center of the world, as they have a nickname for that. The center of the Middle East is the center of the world. Um, but also people that have foreign investments, they also um have a stake in this crisis. For example, second. For example, like
So yeah,
company.
if we're looking at
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if we're looking at what regarding the whole, like the other side of the issue, because we can just say, hey guys, let's just switch over to renewable energy. Everything's gonna be fine. We can like calm down with the whole carbon dioxide production. So we express how that makes a huge problem for the oil center of the world, right?
Mhm.
Uh, when we talk about oil, petroleum, well mainly it's oil and petroleum, we get it from there. Okay, not only the U.S. but just many other countries. They just get it from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, well, not just Saudi Arabia. The Middle East gets it from the Middle East. You know, they have OPEC going and everything. They don't want to give that up. Clearly, uh, they're clearly not looking too much at their other solutions when it comes to energy because they're gonna have this for a while. Even if you look at the graph of what oil reserves, Canada is there, but Canada, you know, there's a bunch of nice guys there. They're gonna keep on looking for that alternative energy instead of turning something not that clean. But the Middle East, on the other hand, they want to roll with this, right? Because you know, what Chaos Theory just mentioned, how other people have a stake in this whole stock market thing going on over there. If their whole oil production thing goes down, if everyone else starts going renewable, a lot of people are going to lose money, and no one wants to lose money. They at this point, you know, businessmen. I'm not a businessman, but you know, people don't really like businessmen because stereotypically they don't believe them as caring anything else about money. When you get to the big businessmen, especially the ones over in the Middle East, I've never met the guys. I've never met any of them, but I gotta assume that they want to keep what they have going right now because you know they have a successful business going in the whole oil industry. They don't really want to look for other solutions regarding, you know, solar, wind, whatever, because they're going to be able to keep this going for a while longer. Uh, at that point, you know, they're like, who cares about the Earth? We're going to make some money, you know, end of story. We can't think like that, but that's why the issue is so, you know, controversial because, you know, we can help out, we can, you know, try to change the outlook that countries have on their production, but that's also going to hurt a lot of people. Hurt a lot of people with a lot of money, albeit, but you know, a lot of people are not going to want to do that because they're going to lose money. You know, the whole Middle East is going to be negatively affected. They're like literally going to lose half their economy. But as we said before, we're going to be moving on to a solution for them so they don't take that hard of a hit, and everyone comes out happy. Hopefully, it's all theoretical, or
Yeah.
we could probably come up with something.
Even if we look at the U.S., right? Because you know, in the U.S., we also have a large investment in oil and gas companies, right? We have companies like Shell, Exxon Mobil, right? We have these um, oil and gas companies, right? But because of all this push towards renewable energy, according to this New York Times article, right, the value of oil and gas stocks as a proportion of the S&P 500 over the last 6 years has dropped to about 4.6% from 8.7%, right? That's almost half of their stocks. So that just goes to show how some companies and businesses are already losing profit, already losing money, and that is bad, right? Although businesses, you know, they are like the evil of this world, whatever you may think about them, they do hire people, right? People do work for these businesses and companies, right? So if the oil businesses and companies are losing money, then they'll have to, you know, fire people. So they have to fire their petroleum engineers, their geologists, their scientists, their all those laborers who work for these oil companies, and then they'll be left jobless. So yeah, it does take it's like a punch to the gut, as this article says. Like for example, Matt Gallagher, the chief executive of Parsley Energy, his company shares have tumbled to about $19 a share from $38 in late 2016. That is literally half, and there's a lot of risk in this industry, right? As this article says, people are working very hard, and we feel we have made the right moves, and it doesn't show up in the share price. So people are working hard. Companies are working hard to keep their oil companies and gas companies going, but this push towards renewable energy has made it detrimental for these companies and workers to, you know, gain profit from the oil and gas. It's, you know, the push to renewable.
But even if we were to somehow get a large majority of the Earth to go green, it would hurt a lot of the other parts of the Earth just the same. Now that's a controversial part of it, right? Because you're going to be trading off one thing for another. But in this case, you know, you gotta choose the better of the two options, I'd say, because you're looking at what, the Middle East versus the
Oh, and the U.S.
safety.
too,
Yeah, yeah, and
and
yeah,
literally
yeah,
any
because the
other
U.S.
country that has oil companies and gas companies, and it has
Yeah, yeah. So
investments in them.
basically, every first world country,
Mm-hmm.
which is technically a minority
Because then
of
you
the earth,
could,
right?
but then you could also say that also third world countries have their share. Because ExxonMobil doesn't just dig their oil trenches in the U.S. They have headquarters in Saudi Arabia, so and they well that's also but they have headquarters in other countries that have oil in them, and they are at times undeveloped nations, and they hire those undeveloped nations people for cheap labor costs. So it affects their economy as well. One could argue.
It's outsourcing, getting some cheaper prices, but in the
Yeah,
process of it, you are hiring people who need the money. They don't care how much money it is, right? They
yeah.
don't care if it's below minimum wage, even if there is a minimum wage in that
It just
specific
it
country given
it
to them by
reminds
the board.
me of an article that I read back in English class. Right? You read this article too.
Yeah, let them sweat, let them sweat, let them sweat.
Yeah, let them sweat. So if you don't know what let
Okay.
them sweat is, it's this article that takes this view that is for sweatshops. You know how people these days they say sweatshops are bad, poor working conditions, minimum wage, if that. Um, but this author, I forgot his name. I'll probably put a link in the description or something to the story. But yeah, this author he said that sweatshops are actually beneficial to these underdeveloped nations since to these he's interviewed kids, right? These kids it's all they have basically what he's trying to say, right? These kids work in these poor conditions, have this minimum wage, but it's because they need to. It's not that they have to, it's they need to work in these conditions to get that money since they're in some cases they're the breadwinners. They're the ones who make the most money in their family. So that's why the Let Them Sweat is a case for sweatshops.
Yeah, so I really recommend reading that article because it might not change your minds, but it'll definitely make you think about how big any situation is. Regarding this one, you're gonna be taking if you want to switch over to a green renewable source. You're gonna be taking out the coal industry. You're gonna be taking out the oil industry. Of
Uh,
course, you can't take it out completely. That's like almost impossible. But if you take out even a big chunk of it, that's just going to be setting off a whole network of issues, right? People having issues getting work at the factory that they had that might just shut down because no one in the area is, using oil anymore. Not enough people are buying. The whole Middle East is going to have their own little crisis, right? Any investors in the Middle East, so any other countries, right? They're going to have their own problem. Their workers are going to have their own problem. So there's got to be a trade off, right? So clearly the issue is just
yeah.
more than it seems to the eye.
Um, Let Them Sweat is by it's a New York Times article by Nicholas D. Christoph. But yeah, this just goes to show this everything depends on your perspective on where you stand, right? Based on your experiences, right? You may not have experienced working in a sweatshop in a third world country where it's your only option, but other people haven't. And the more you read about this stuff, the more you realize how big a world this is and how many different people have so many different lives, and it lets you understand that nothing is ever 100% like accurate or
Well,
not accurate, 100% like true or
one
like
word, yeah.
justice or like justified. I mean, one-sided. That's what I'm trying to say. Right? There's always different perspectives to every side. Even like the worst thing possibly you could probably imagine, there's probably a beneficial side to it in some way, some twisted way. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why this is such an issue. That's why anything can be such an issue if you look deeper. Of course, some things are going to be easier to do than others. This one is a colossally difficult challenge.
hmm
Um, but even the challenge being there,
so yeah,
completing that challenge will
yeah.
be hard, and it'll be hard on the people at the other end of it.
Yeah, so those third world
But
country
it's a
workers
trade-off.
working for those oil companies could be working minimum wage for sure, but they need to work that minimum wage to make their money. So maybe that's why it's so difficult for people to accept that climate change is real because it affects not just their own wealth, but like various various wealthy countries and just countries in general and their wealth. Like even a U.S. citizen, right? Even like a stockbroker, right? He could have stocks in ExxonMobil and like Shell, and if people were to like, if we did have this push for climate change, ExxonMobil stocks and Shell stocks would go down, and he would lose money. So it even just affects the average everyday person, not just huge, enormous companies and countries. Even an everyday person can be affected negatively.
Yeah, admittedly, big business owners, some people that are more vain are probably going to be denying climate change just because, it's going to be bad for business if it turns out to be true, etc. Like that. Some people deny climate change because, well, some of them are in denial, right? Because they don't want to believe that this is happening. Other people, what? They just believe it's a part of the Earth's cycle. But we already discussed this earlier about how it's skyrocketing, right? It's just not normal. Because it's from pre-industrial to now, we went through a whole lot of change in our factory production, and clearly we just got to say it's a thing, right? Sorry to those of you who may disagree, but we got to say it's a thing, and it's clearly a problem, and it's not an easy one to solve. Just looking over at how many people it affect.
I
So
feel
at
like,
the end of the day,
yeah,
yep.
I feel like this
Okay, so
denial.
at the end,
Okay, I was gonna
no,
say.
no, no, you go, you go.
Okay, I was gonna say, I feel like this denial thing is kind of like the Holocaust effect. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but some people don't believe in the Holocaust just because of how disgusting and how tragic it was. Like, it's too bad to be true. Basically, their point is that the Holocaust didn't exist. So I guess when people look at the numbers and look at the facts and like how insane the effects can be for like the world. Like if you go back to the
Yeah,
graph, right, the 1.5 degrees Celsius versus 2 degrees Celsius, right? I guess it's like to them it's like too bad to be true in a way.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They're all like, yeah, this can't be real. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
But
we're gonna have to say that it is real.
yeah,
And
which brings us, but how can we compromise, right? Cuz maybe those people maybe those people deep inside they know it's real, but they just don't want to push for climate change because it will affect their world. So that's why we have come up with a couple compromises, if you will, to help
yeah,
maybe encourage the push for climate change without damaging the economy, right? The best of both
yeah,
worlds.
yeah.
So let's start
Maybe
off
try
with
not to damage the economy. Maybe transform it.
yeah. So let's start off with
Yeah,
let's start off with the Middle East and how we can help them because the Middle East has a large stake in this, right? So
mhm.
I was looking up some stuff, right? And it dawned on me, right? The Middle East, they it's insanely hot there, right? I don't know what the average temperature of the Middle East is, but hold on 1 second. Middle East temperature.
Yeah.
So the average Middle East temperature is 100, like, okay, so 1 second. Okay, wherever that is, 1 second. Okay, across the Middle East, summer temperatures are usually 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but often rise above 100. So that's insanely hot, right? And since it's in the middle of the world, it's not technically like in the exact middle, but it's around the middle of the world, right? So it has long days and it's in line with the Earth's axis of tilting. So it does get a lot of sunlight, right? So you know what that means, right? There is a renewable energy source that utilizes sunlight to its advantage to convert into energy. Solar power. Solar power could be an insane boost for the Middle East. Like, could be a huge asset to the Middle East, right? They could convert to renewable energy by help the planet, and they could make an entire business of like self funding, like not having to. Actually, wait, hold on a second. Wait a minute.
Well, I
If
mean, yeah, there could be main with any production project there can be there's going to be jobs created. There's probably not going to be as many given in a factory, right? Not many that minimum wage jobs. If you have a solar plant created, you're probably going to need more educated workers. But I'm sure the Middle East has those, right? But regardless, it's going to open jobs. Uh, if you go down to the personal level, yes, it's going to hurt people. Right? It's going to hurt some people who may not be able to qualify for those jobs. But on the larger scale, it'll hopefully patch up that hole left in the Middle Eastern economy.
Yeah. I just realized something, right? So actually, I was gonna say that the solar like Middle East could become self-sufficient, whatever, right? But they're not the ones importing oil, right? So this, if this was like the U.S. or something, if the U.S. was in the Middle East location, this would be great for them, right? Since they wouldn't have to import oil anymore. But the Middle East is exporters of oil, right? So if they stopped exporting and inside like became self-sufficient, whatever, they wouldn't really get revenue from, because you can't like really export solar power energy, right? You can't really export electricity. So they would become self sufficient, yes, but in a way they kind of already are self sufficient with the
Mm.
with their oil, since they dig their own oil and then they use it, and then there's they whatever they have extra of they ship it out to other places. But so yeah, they actually kind of would still be losing the revenue if they that they would have gained, I guess.
Mm.
I was playing devil's advocate, but yeah. So okay, but
Well,
maybe that still has a little bit of work to do. That Middle East problem. But yeah, what other solution were you gonna say?
well, okay. So other than solar, there's
Yeah,
of course the wind,
yeah,
right? Um, uh, so wind farms. I know that the desert, right? They have desert. Um, deserts. Let's see. There's sand dunes. Sand dunes are created by wind. There's clearly wind there, so you can make wind farms. But even if there wasn't wind, there's wind up. If you go up, and wind farms are real high. The production cost of them is higher than like coal, uh, natural gas. The production cost to make a wind farm might be higher, but let's see, their energy production, like per dollar, I believe is better. Let's see, around Long Island, I believe they didn't. I'm pretty sure there was a petition to make one on Southern Shore or something, right? But they thought it was ugly. Now that's gotta be the dumbest thing I've ever heard because they wouldn't even be able to see it. But hold on, I'm getting off track. Basically, wind energy is another solution in addition to solar. They have a lot of sun, clearly, right? It's like boiling hot.
yeah,
But wind energy, there's got to be a lot of wind in the desert, right? Making sand dunes, making the whole structures and everything. Even if there wasn't, you could just find a nice spot in the middle of nowhere. No one's gonna be complaining to make a large wind plant with wind turbines going way up and getting that wind energy. I mean, I'm not even sure how many like birds would get hit by it if you are concerned about the birds. Because you are in the middle of the desert.
hmm But now, just to play devil's advocate again, right? So yeah, sure they could. Actually, before I do devil's advocate again, they also have the Nile River, right? They could use the Nile River to their advantage, because they could make a hydroelectric dam from the Nile using the Nile River's energy water flow. So that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
yeah, another potential energy source.
for hydroelectricity. Yeah, for hydroelectricity, I know that's actually more efficient regarding production costs than coal, natural gas. So hydroelectric is you know as better at, or it's just like a better solution. Of course, people around the Nile River, right, the locals, they might not be too welcome to that. I'm not the consequences of having a dam. I know that the Nile River floods regularly,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what a dam itself would entail. Right, I'm not really a dam expert,
hmm
but it is definitely an option. It's an option. I'm not sure what it would entail, but it is an option.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So back to being devil's advocate, right? So these are great ways for the Middle East to become self-sufficient, but again, they're not really revenue makers, right? What the Middle East needs is a large revenue maker to make back that money that they would be losing from not exporting oil, right? Because they could have solar power, they could have hydroelectric dams and wind turbines, but I don't think exporting electricity would be profitable, since electricity loses energy
Yeah.
as it travels long distances. So yeah, they wouldn't really have a solid money maker, if you would say, to replace their oil. And if they can't find a solution for that, then there goes all the cities, other luxury resorts, and all their supercars and stuff like that.
Yeah. And even if it would be better for the Earth, that like the people are just straight up gonna, not say yes to that, of course, because they're gonna
Yeah,
be losing their lifestyle. They don't have anywhere to sell their stuff anymore, right? Even they're probably already self sufficient in a bad way, albeit using their oil, which is, I'm assuming that's what they use, right?
yeah,
But given that they can't sell their oil anymore, right? And even if they do have these nice new, fangled wind farms to get their electricity, they don't really need those because they have that oil. They don't really need that there, and knowing they just gave up their lifestyle for essentially nothing other than knowing that you're helping out the earth. If you put it like that, not many people are going to be willing to give that up.
yeah,
So they need a moneymaker essentially
yeah.
because
To
they make a lot of
replace.
money. Yeah, yeah, to replace the gold farm that is oil.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting. But yeah, well, I guess this poses the philosophical question, right? Why should I care? Great
Come again?
philosophical question here. Well, how about in your opinion, Frosty? Why do you think we should care? Because even though it won't
Why
affect
do you think?
us,
Okay,
yeah, why even though it won't affect us since we're gonna die, right? Who cares anymore? What's the point if nothing matters in this world? Nietzsche. That was a little bit of Nietzsche right there. But yeah,
so yeah, why should you care? So, uh, sloth is one of the seven deadly sins. Not saying I'm a Christian or anything,
yeah,
but you know, I do think that everyone should be involved, right? Because humans, if we're together, we can make a lot of change. I mean, considering we made a change in this bad of a way, right? Using the same logic, we can make the same change in a good of a way.
hmm,
Of course, it's going to be harder, and clearly the Middle East has a little dilemma going on here because they're going to be wiped off the map in the richer countries if they decide to go that way, which they're probably not,
yeah,
because they're going to be self-sufficient, but they're going to be self-sufficient, but their whole luxury is going to be lower. So they're going to go from upper class to middle class. It's going to be better for the environment, though,
yeah,
but I don't think they're going to be taking that trade-off. So why should we? Why should we care? Because clearly, I'm going to assume that they won't.
hmm,
So why should we? Um, there's the whole I'm an environmentalist personally, right? Because
hmm,
I'm a tree hugger. I have a garden going on. Now, you should care not for yourself, but you should care for the people who come later. Now, you might not have kids, right? And then you just like, well, whatever. But it's more like it's just kind of man, how do I say this? Because I care, but explaining why I care. It's in some cases you just do, right? It's just human nature to care about some things, and some people just don't.
Well, here's what I
Hmm.
think, right? Here's why I think the Middle East should care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep singling out the Middle East, but like this actually kind of affects the entire world, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like kind of like pick your poison, right? So here's a scenario, right? Let's say the Middle East does push, or like the world, whatever, does push for renewable energy and stuff. Sure, countries may lose their oil, gold mines, and whatever. They may lose their immense profits that they would have been making. But let's say, and sure, that happens. But then let's take the other scenario, right? We don't push for global warming. I mean, we don't push for action against climate change. We don't push for renewable energy, and we stick with how the way we are. And by 2100, the sea levels will rise, and then the parts of the world will be underwater. But here's this: parts of the world will also be in flames, right? The Middle East is extremely hot, right?
Yeah,
If we keep
literally.
this rate, it will only get hotter. In fact, people will actually have to leave their homes since it will get too hot to live there. They're right next to the Sahara Desert, right? There's towns sprouted across there. They will literally have to leave because the conditions will be so uninhabitable that it just isn't fit for human living there. So, and if you have, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just going
yeah.
to cause another migration crisis right there. We already have problems with like Syria and like Libya, and all these people are fleeing their countries, but that's due to political warfare, political conflicts and warfare. But now, if we do this way, climate change will just cause these places to get even hotter, and they'll have to leave due to environmental problems. but it'll still be them refugees fleeing and going to other countries where it's colder. So again,
Okay,
another
then the
refugee crisis. Yeah.
yeah. Then the issue becomes like nowadays, just like convincing people that it might just turn out that like that because if you try to tell that to the Middle East or like anywhere right now, they're gonna be like, what are you talking about? That's an insane scenario to think about, and they're gonna keep up with it, and then 50 years before we have enough time to do anything about it, there's gonna be heat waves like mad over there. In other places. Other places are just gonna be straight up underwater. Florida, MIA. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just the case of you don't want to do it too late, right? You don't want to wait till it's too late to do anything effectively. But at the same time, if you try to convince people nowadays that this is a problem, we got to do something about it, they don't see anything happening, therefore they don't believe anything's happening. Seeing is believing. That's how some people are.
Yeah. In fact,
In the Middle East,
it's already begun.
especially they see. Yeah, you can go.
Because in June 2017, right,
It's already.
In Abu Dhabi reached a record high of 50.4 degrees Celsius, right? In Dubai, authorities warned drivers not to leave aerosols in their vehicles after several cars caught fire in the extreme heat. And that's from weform.org. So as you can see, it's already begun, right? The World Bank is spending $1.5 billion to fight climate change in the region and estimates that 80 to 100 million people will be exposed to water stress by 2025. So basically, water stress is basically the lack of water. So, there is the Nile River, but that could dry up by 2025 or like somewhat dry up, and
Yeah,
people
especially
will not have
considering.
water to drink.
Yeah. The Nile River's only like over in Egypt, right? Because the rest of the Middle East
Yeah,
is
I
a decent bit
yeah.
away. Yeah. So the water's gonna, water situations are like the problem now is just telling people that this is a problem now, and it's gonna get even worse because who they might lose their luxury living, but at least they don't lose the whole freaking continent, right? Because it's gonna be set up in flames if they don't do anything. And there it might not be that serious, right? But
Hmm.
it is serious. It might not be like straight up just volcanic eruptions and everything, but it's going to be nigh inhabitable. And the dilemma comes around on telling them that it's either what you clean up your act now, literally, or you're going to be living in uninhabitable conditions,
Yes.
or you keep going, live in luxury until your mansion gets set on fire.
Hmm. So yeah, this just further goes to show that even though some people, companies, and countries will lose their economic revenue and stuff, we kind of it's like it's at the cost of their lives basically, or the lives of millions of people in this world because sure, we are right here. Most of you people are probably middle class Americans listening from your home in safety, but right now, every second, people are dying of starvation. People are dying of thirst. There's political warfare. There's actual warfare, and people are fleeing crises. There's like so many problems going on right now. It's just that if we don't care, then who will? Those people, they don't have the time or the energy to care, right? They're just thinking about how they're gonna survive the next day. But it's up to us, the people who are living in like our safe homes, to care, because there's no one else to care for them.
Yeah, going back to the whole question of why should we care?
Yeah.
Some people just do. Some people do it because there's no one else to do it for them.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's
but
it's that
yeah, I mean,
the late 1800s. Remember that one thing where the rich company owners, the business owners, they felt like it was their need to help. It was like it was a responsibility to
yeah,
help the less fortunate. Forgot
yeah.
what was that called,
They
but
thought they should give back.
I think it was the Gospel of Wealth.
They thought they should give it back. Yeah, the
Yeah,
gospel of wealth, the gospel
yeah,
of wealth, and philanthropy,
yeah.
philanthropy.
But yeah,
That's good.
back to actual solutions because we just went back to like problems and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I guess there really is no 100% solution to solving this problem. like you can't 100% maintain your revenue from oil at the same time pushing for renewable energy unless you somehow find a way to make renewable energy into profit and exporting it, because the the Middle East, right? They don't make their money directly from oil. They make their money from trading the oil, right? They
Yep.
trade these oil billions and millions of barrels of oil to other countries, and that's how they make their money. But if we can somehow find a way to make renewable energy profitable by trade, then I feel like that's a huge step forward to find a compromise.
Yeah,
Like even
because
something
regarding
as
renewable energy,
yeah, like even as something as simple as finding a way to reduce the energy loss from carrying electricity over long distances, like even that's a huge step, because then you can actually, trade electricity. If you how I know how crazy that sounds, but if we have the technological capacity to trade to, reduce the energy loss by transferring electricity, then that's already like a huge step.
of course, it's gonna be hard, right? It's gonna lead to a lot of people having what their way of life changed. But the change in losing a job, losing a job versus losing, not even just losing your life, right? But making the life of your kids horrible,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Also,
So
speaking of
yeah,
jobs,
just
renewable energy will create new jobs, right? So we talked about how
yeah,
the oil companies will lose, the workers will lose jobs if we push towards renewable energy, because oil won't be as profitable anymore. But if we make renewable energy farms like solar panel farms and wind turbine farms, then that we need people to build those farms, right? That's where the new jobs come in, and then we also need people to maintain those farms, right? Maintenance and stuff like that. That creates even more jobs. And then so you see this chain reaction, right? At the cost of one industry, a new industry emerges. So the
hmm
hopefully like the job net change will remain the same. We won't preferably gain even more jobs, but we're not experts on that field, so who knows, really.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
the question of why should we care is a better question than the question of what happens if we don't care. Actually, wait. I mean, the question itself isn't that bad, but like the effects of what happens if we don't care is better than the effects of why should we care, right? Because the effects of what happens if
Yeah.
we don't care, well, as you saw from that chart, right, 1.5 degrees Celsius versus 2 degrees Celsius, that just shows what happens if we don't care. And we're already at 1 degree Celsius in 2015, and we're making our way towards 1.5/2 by the end of the century. Sure, you may not be alive, but that's literally what your kids will be in their like 30s or 40s in 81 years. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this video. Either
Yeah,
if you at least the other side of the story, because I feel like that's where the main problem is, that people don't want to know what the other side has to
yeah,
say. So, and I hope that
yeah.
our
Most people,
explanation helped you guys understand the other side. Yeah, because most people, as I was saying, most people don't want to take that first step to like recycle that bottle, because again, they're like, what will one bottle do? But you know, one bottle may not save the world, but it will do a heck of a lot more than not doing one bottle of recycling. Well, I think that's it for our first episode of our podcast, channel yet to be named. Um, we hope you guys enjoyed. Please,
yeah,
please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe,
yeah.
and maybe even and also comment down what you think our next topic should be. But it might be not.
Or
Yeah. What?
Or just like comment down your thoughts,
Yeah.
right? If you hate us, comment that down. We'll see. You'll know. We'll figure out a reason why.
Yeah.
I hate people who do things without a reason, or at least like what's hate without a reason. Because I can do things without a reason, right? I can do something. I don't believe that you need a reason to do something.
So yeah, just like even like if you just want to say your voice sounds annoying, we should make comment that down too if you want to say that.
Anything. Well, we're desperate. We need
Okay,
social
we're not
interaction.
desperate. Let's calm down here, buddy.
I'm desperate.
Okay, he's desperate. Frosty's desperate. But yeah, that's it for now. I guess your boys Chaos Theory and Frosty. See ya.
Frosty for now.